Well, good to catch up with Matt James, editor of Motorsport News, who was with me watching the Quick Six qualifying here at Knockhill. That was an interesting session. The first two parts, I forget how many parts there are now, but the first two parts, in terms of who didn't get through, was worth mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the circuits here at Knockhill, undulating, a lot of uphill, downhill, where hybrid deployment really, really counts. And the successful guys in the championship obviously coming here with less. And as Tom Ingram pointed out, you use it to come up the hill from the hairpin to finish a lap, and then you can use it at the start of the next lap to begin the run down to the first corner. If you've only got 1 second per lap, you're losing out on a heck of a lot. And as Tom Ingram said afterwards, he's delighted with the way the car's handling. It's what it was going to be with that amount of power. And the same thing for Ash as well. Ash tried a set of new soft tyres in qualifying. He said the handling of the car went away for him, didn't know where they had gone. So there was maybe other issues at play there. But yeah, it was just, I think we're just seeing exactly what the hybrid's meant to do.
Yeah. It does seem, going through this season, that all the drivers are saying, right, we've got 3 races, one of those is the sacrificial lamb at some point, relatively speaking.
Absolutely, and that's made the racing great, hasn't it? When you know that someone's got to take the pain in race 1. And obviously, where people qualify is going to determine which strategy they decide to go. We saw that with Jake Hill at the last round of Croft. Maybe he played his strategy hand a little bit wrongly. You just don't know how dramatic the tyre effect is going to be. I think it'll be less here than it was at Croft, but the hybrid effect will be. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts. It's interesting because of those so many different factors this year. It's a big unknown for everyone, and that includes the drivers and the strategists, which is why you're seeing it happen.
Absolutely. Colin Turkington on pole, he was delighted with that, and after a decent Croft, I think it's good to see him back at the front. He just looked, his body language was much more relaxed after that session.
Yeah, and I'm glad I made a wager with Mr. Gow before the session that a front-wheel drive car would be on pole, so yeah, I've lost that one today, along with many other things. Interesting watching Colin in free practice this morning, and in fact all the BMWs out the back at the chicane. They were avoiding the curbs completely and just keeping the car nice and settled, and as you say, direction change on it looks really, really good through Duffer's Dip. It didn't seem like a drama for Colin. It was a really, really quick time, first one into the 50s. Very, very fast, but no bother. But he said afterwards that he had no idea where his pace would be, given all the setup and the what had got him into the qualifying position. Even he didn't know what the pace was likely to be, so he was surprised. But he's awful good round here, is Colin.
Yes, he's proved that, hasn't he? We'll talk about Adam Morgan in a second, the other BMW, but Aaron Taylor-Smith was absolutely elated. He was delighted. He got his mind set on the Quick Six when I spoke to him this morning, but it's a good result for him.
Well, it's improving performances from that team, as we've seen from the midpoint of last year, actually. They seem to unlock something a little bit on the setup after the mid-season test. They built on it over the winter. Aaron's driving as well as he ever has done. I mean, we know he's a proven race winner in this category. So yeah, great to see him on the front row, and it's an interesting dynamic with him and Colin together.
Yeah, absolutely. A good performance by Adam Morgan. He said to me pretty much that he needed that. He's not had the best of seasons, and that's been a real boost for him, because he knew it was inside him. He knew he could do it.
Absolutely, and even after the free practice sessions this morning, he was still scratching his head a little bit, not very happy. He's worked away at it over the lunchtime with his engineers and hit the ground with a car that's really, really good. Slightly disappointed to hear him say after qualifying that he's quite happy to play rear gunner to Colin. You'd want him to go for a win himself, because he really needs one. He's got one of the best cars on the grid, so by rights he should be out there aiming for wins. I'd like to see him be a little bit more feisty.
So next to him on the grid is Dan Rowbottom, who obviously topped the times in that first session this morning, and he's already said that was that's housekeeping, we can put that away. But he said to me after the race he's just not quite sure what happened there.
No, the great thing about Rowbottom in quite a few of the recent qualifying periods have been the fact that he's been on the bubble, had a lap disallowed, then got in, then got knocked out again. He's definitely where the interest centres. It's interesting that, the track limits thing is going to hurt a lot of drivers, and it looked like it was going to trip him up again, but he managed to keep it calm and get through to the Quick Six. Great, because he's kind of showing the potential that we know that he had, as you said, really fast in free practice doing the housekeeping, so there was no reason he shouldn't have been challenging for pole. But again, he made it harder for himself than it needed to be, and as a consequence of that, you use more rubber, you take more life out of the tyres, and as much as qualifying, it does have a knock-on effect, as you go through future sessions races. Pleased he's shown what he can do, but took a long time to get there.
Absolutely. We've seen the effect of the hybrid in terms of Ash Sutton and Dan Camishar. Dan Camishar had, I suspect, a disappointing session for him as well. So rounding out the top, Josh Cook is in there. He was very pleased with that, because when I spoke to him first thing this morning, he said they were doing a lot of work on the car to try and get all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle in place to give him a shot at that.
Yeah, I mean, the Speedworks crew that run the car, the LKQ car, did a lot of work over the summer break to take, to improve the drivability of the car and all that kind of thing, take some weight out of it. And it worked at Croft, but of course Croft and here are completely different places, so you just don't know if that was a one circuit thing, but it's proven it isn't, because Josh was very fast this morning. Pleased with the car, chipping away, working in the right direction, so they're very positive. And it's shown across all 4 cars, actually. I know some have had their travails, but they're all improving.
Yeah, absolutely. And rounding out the top 6, Andrew Watson. He'll be pleased with that.
Yeah, I think he scores the world record for the most laps taken off him during that second period of qualifying. I think it's something like 4 or 5 laps he had disallowed, which is a shame, because, if Josh can get time out of that car, Josh Cook, who's immediately in front of him, so can Andrew. He's had a very competitive weekend here so far. He's obviously loving the revamped Toyota Corolla, the Toyota Gazoo racing car that he's got underneath him. So yeah, I think we'll see an impressive race from him tomorrow.
Can Colin do it from lights to flag in race 1?
Yes, he can. Particularly if Adam Morgan gets second off the line.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all going to be down to the start, isn't it, round here?
Yep.
Fantastic. We'll see what happens over the weekend. Thanks, Matt.
Nice one. Thanks, Steve.